corporate greed coming pretty much being in the midst of our backyard here, cutting forever trees down pretty much would mess up the water quality here and the watersheds and the rivers that are close to our homes and that pretty much rent by our tribal lands as well. But, it's like, we, as a seventh generation amongst all the nations here in Turtle Island, it's like a wake-up call for us to actually wake up the next generation of what's going on around them. And it's kind of hard at doing that because usually, people are focused on what the next person wants, in modern-day societies, so our youth are kind of losing that, and pretty much those who are trying to, keep their language alive, keep their culture alive, there's only a few, and there actually needs to be more, but there's only a few. And so with that, when that happens, the first thing we try to, bring it alive and bring back to the people is the language. And so the language tells it all. It tells, pretty much the history and the stories of the people, how we evolved from the land, and how we move with the seasons, and on our world set views of our, connection to the land and the animals. And so a lot of language has that. And so once we bring the language back, and then we bring back the ceremonies, and once the ceremonies happen, then the people come together, And so one of that's what's happening right now is this a milestone we're reaching is now bringing back the language. And because a lot of California tribes are actually losing their language, and with that, they're losing their identity. And so we're here with the cards I got here, I'm gonna pretty much show on display later on. It's pretty much just cards I made, I made for our tribal head start, to help the kids, and get familiar with the language a little bit, and to keep that little learning going. And so what I learned though too is by bringing back that language, you also connect to the earth, the land, of your native land where you're from. What brought attention to was when I started, getting back to the language and stuff, learning it, is that, rest in peace, my Uncle Kenny Lewa. He's the one that told me the story about Pidaha, what the actual word meant, and little old stories he heard about it, and from the story back, going back to the late 1800s when the roundhouse was built, and how the old grandpas back then, how they carried that redwood pole from down the river to bring back to the grounds where it's at right now, off the river, off Pidaha. And so this watershed, the ancestral watershed, has, have a lot of stories, crazy stories, and has also stories too of, old campsites, even old trading routes, because some of the trading routes went off the ridges. You go to the ridge, you can see everything. You see the highest peak of the lands and the hills and everything. And so this watershed we call Garcia River is our ancestral watershed, and that me and Sal took on to rename. And so with that, we hope that in the long run, it's just not what's currently going on, but we hope for our kids and our next generation coming that we can connect them back to the land and that watershed. And it's slowly happening, and when we had our little gathering there, our little grassroots camp out there, we were kind of surprised when we actually came, from 3 different Pomo tribes. We never thought that would actually happen, And so it happened, and pretty much some of our people starting to wake up. It has to take that direct action to connect back to the land to actually wake our people up. So that's an initiative we're trying to take. And as far as the Pidaha goes, and with the name Pidaha, it says it all of how we connect to the land. River mouth, you see it right there. And that's one of the ways we connect to the land is the language. Like I said, it said everything. It even described where we hunted, where we fished for thousands of years. And so with that, I would like to recite a poem here relating to Pidaha and pretty much touch bases on that, and also to pretty much speak out against the medicinal rubber company that wants to pretty much do a timber harvest there. And they want to harvest 334 acres of land, which is 24 to 40 foot up slopes from the South Fork of the watershed. And pretty much biologists say it's a bad idea. All these directors for California departments say it's a bad idea because all the herbicides could be used on it. They're gonna use hundreds and hundreds of gallons of herbicide to split and spit. They leave the oak trees, the tan oak trees split and leave them dead there, which would be a fire hazard pretty much. And also, we gotta think about the animals. What if the squirrels or the flickerbirds that go on there and eat these nuts that fall, they're gonna be poisoned too, right, by herbicide. And it's just gonna be bad for the water quality as it goes down slope after heavy rainfalls. And I think to myself, do I want my kids to see that? After I grew up here my whole life, swimming in this river right here, swimming through this water, watching, the fish run around and play, do I want my kids to see that? So, this timber harvest plan is a bad idea, you know, and people, I'm glad the locals are speaking up against it too as well, you know, these local environmentalist groups, you know, speaking up against it, their comments behind it, as well as me and Sal. And, you know, we took on that, you know, that pretty much responsibility to speak on it and comment on it, and what it means to us just as just grassroots tribal members, you know, nobody politically connected or anything like that, but just as caring for the land and caring for that watershed that we grew up on. And so, so we're still we're waiting on comments back from them, but I don't know, they have to review everything, I guess. So I want to speak to this point real quick. It's Piraha River mouth. Natural springs of fresh water gushing to the top of the land of the Bokeh people, with rainwater rushing down to the basin to give life to trees, plants, and animals, respected as beings of equal, truly outgrowing through the redwood forest, free from obliteration, Spaniards' wrath of evil. Salmon spawning by the hundreds with streams flowing between numerous trees, with plants bound to flowers giving nourishment to insects and bees. Native women gathered willow and berries connected to Mother Earth and singing in harmony. From the ocean to the headwaters, where wild game is plentiful, with no fear of starvation. Relatives from Kabah dead, coming from the east to trade obsidian flakes, seafood and shells, and form a commerce to survive as one nation. Ancestors having ceremonies giving thanks to the spirits in creation. Everyone around the fire with hearts filled with jubilation. Upriver, where grandmothers sit under oak trees, gathering acorns of water rocks and pestle stones, where the people never worked alone, where it was a way of life to caretake the land to a place we call home. Sorry, folks. We lived in peace till the 1850 deforestation inflicted upon their lands, also causing shipwrecks into reefs, villages raided and ancestors forced to Fort Bragg to be counted like sheep, with neighboring tribes dying off from smallpox disease, artifacts and baskets stolen to be sold to people of wealth and prestige, which holds the key to our cultural identity. In the 21st century, we're restoring who we are, even though some of us have strayed too far. To walk into a world could be hard, and decolonizers of minds could be suffering through a cold winter. But the water that runs through our homelands we call Pidaha, not the Garcia River.
Oh!